Today's got something so crazy I can barely contain myself. Brandon's been buzzing about it nonstop. Welcome back, everyone. I'm Chloe.
And I'm Brandon. And I really can't contain my excitement today because we're diving into Tesla's Robotaxi announcement. And oh man, this is huge, Chloe, like absolutely massive for the entire transportation industry.
Okay, so before we jump in, I gotta ask because I'm honestly still wrapping my head around this. When you say robotaxi, we're talking about cars with literally no human drivers, right? Like no steering wheel, no person up front.
Exactly. And that's what makes this so revolutionary. Tesla's planning to launch what they're calling the Cybercab. And yeah, no steering wheel, no pedals, nothing. It's fully autonomous using their full self-driving technology that they've been, perfecting for years now.
Wait, so how does someone even call one of these things? Is it like Uber but with robots?
Pretty much. You'll use the Tesla app and just like any ride-sharing service, you'll request a ride and this autonomous vehicle shows up. But here's the really cool part. Tesla's saying the cost per mile could be way cheaper than traditional ride-sharing because, well, no human driver to pay.
Okay, that's actually pretty amazing, but I'm curious about safety because we've all heard stories about self-driving cars having issues. How safe are we talking here?
Great question. And this is where it gets really interesting. Tesla's been collecting data from millions of miles driven by their current FSD users. They're claiming their system's already safer than human drivers in many scenarios, but the regulatory approval is the big hurdle.
Right. So um what are regulators actually worried about? Is it just the technology not being ready or
It's a mix of things, really. There's the technical reliability, but also liability questions, like who's responsible if something goes wrong. Plus, different states have different rules about autonomous vehicles, so Tesla will probably need to launch in specific markets first and then expand.
And what about competition? Like, aren't there other companies doing this too? I feel like I've heard of Waymo?
Oh, absolutely. Waymo's actually already operating in Phoenix and San Francisco with their autonomous taxis. And companies like Cruise, well, they had some setbacks, but also Amazon, Zoox, and even traditional automakers like GM and Ford are working on this. But Tesla's approach is different because they're using cameras instead of expensive lidar sensors.
Wait, cameras versus lidar? Can you break that down for me? What's the difference and why does it matter?
Sure. So LiDAR uses laser pulses to create detailed 3D maps of surroundings. Super accurate, but really expensive. Tesla's betting on cameras and AI to interpret what they see, kind of like how humans drive. It's cheaper to produce, but arguably more challenging technically because you're relying purely on visual recognition and machine learning.
That's fascinating. So if Tesla can make this work, they could potentially offer cheaper rides than competitors. But when are we actually going to see these on the road? Do we have any timeline?
Tesla has been saying production will start before 2027, but you know how Elon's timelines can be optimistic. I think we'll likely see limited pilots in select cities first, probably sometime in 2025 or 2026, and then broader rollout if everything goes smoothly.
Okay, so before we dive deeper into what this means for consumers, let's hear from our sponsors. Actually, no, wait. I want our listeners to weigh in on this. Drop us a comment or send us a message. Would you trust a fully autonomous robotaxi for your daily commute? We really want to know what you're thinking about this.
All right, so let's talk about what this actually means for regular people because this isn't just about cool technology. This could completely change how we think about transportation and car ownership.
Right, if these robo-taxis are cheap and available everywhere, do people even need to own cars anymore? I'm thinking about insurance costs, parking, maintenance, all that stuff.
Exactly. And especially in urban areas, this could be huge. Tesla estimates that the cost per mile could be as low as 20 cents compared to like a dollar or more for current ride sharing. When you factor in car payments, insurance, gas, parking fees, for a lot of people, robo-taxis could be way more economical.
That's, wow, 20 cents a mile. But What about people who live in rural areas or smaller towns? Like, will these services even reach them?
That's a really important point. Initially, robotaxis will probably focus on dense urban areas where there's consistent demand. Rural areas might have to wait longer, or they might see a hybrid model where people still own cars but use robotaxis for specific trips.
And what about jobs? Like, there are millions of people who drive for a living: Uber drivers, taxi drivers, truck drivers. This seems like it could be really disruptive for employment.
Yeah, that's probably the biggest social impact we'll see. The transition won't happen overnight, but long-term, traditional driving jobs will definitely be affected. On the flip side, we'll probably see new jobs in fleet management, remote monitoring, maintenance, and customer service for these robotaxi networks.
Hmm. And I'm curious about the environmental impact. Are these robotaxis going to be electric? Because if they're running constantly, that could either be really good or really bad for emissions.
Great point. Tesla's robotaxis will definitely be electric, and because they'll be used more efficiently than personal cars, which sit parked like 95% of the time, we can actually see fewer total vehicles needed. Plus, fleet operators can optimize routes and charging to maximize efficiency.
That makes sense. So, what are the biggest challenges Tesla still needs to solve? Like, what could go wrong with this plan?
Well, the technology still needs to handle really complex scenarios like construction zones, emergency vehicles, unusual weather conditions, and then there's public acceptance. Some people are just going to be uncomfortable with fully autonomous vehicles, at least initially.
Yeah, I'll admit, the idea of getting into a car with no driver it's a little nerve-wracking. But I guess we said the same thing about elevators without operators, right?
Exactly. And once people see these operating safely day after day, adoption will probably accelerate pretty quickly. The convenience factor is just too compelling. Imagine never having to find parking or worry about driving after a night out.
True. So before we wrap up, what should our listeners be watching for as this develops? Like, what are the key milestones that'll tell us if Tesla's really going to pull this off?
Keep an eye on regulatory approvals, first pilot programs in select cities, and Tesla's safety data reports. Also, watch what competitors like Waymo are doing. If they start expanding rapidly, that'll put pressure on Tesla to deliver faster.
This has been absolutely fascinating, Brandon. I feel like I actually understand what's happening now instead of just hearing random tech buzzwords. All right, everyone, that's our deep dive into Tesla's robotaxi plans and what they mean for all of us.
Thanks for joining us on NewsNectar. This is definitely a story we'll be following closely, so make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss any updates.